zło wojny powróciło i dziś o nim słucham w opowieściach kobiet w Sielpi. Oni nie są ludźmi. Czy pani widziała Irpień, Buczę, Mariupol? To nie są ludzie, to są kaci. Nie mogłem uwierzyć w to, co się stało. Żyłem w pokoju przez całe moje życie, a tu nagle coś takiego. To jest okropne uczucie, kiedy słyszysz alarm przeciwlotniczy, kiedy lecą rakiety i eksplodują nad twoim domem. Nie planowałyśmy nigdzie uciekać. Gdybym nie miała dzieci, zostałabym na Ukrainie. Czułam się, jakby ktoś mi duszę rozerwał. Ja mam nadzieję na lepsze, ale czasami, powiem szczerze, opadają mi ręce. Moja córka mojej bratowej muszą teraz z bronią w ręku bronić naszego kraju, dlatego, żeby ich dzieci mogły dalej żyć szczęśliwie. Chcę wrócić do domu. Mam takie uczucie, że kiedy wrócę, to będę całować ziemię. Oni nikogo nie oszczędzali. Tam były bezbronne dzieci. Nocowaliśmy na podłodze, spaliśmy na kocach. Czuję strach, ból. Ciężko w ogóle przyjąć do świadomości, że coś takiego może się wydarzyć. Chcę do domu. U nas tam jest cała rodzina. Jedyne, co mogę teraz tutaj robić, to siedzieć i martwić się o nich.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to see you all here on our panel dedicated to very important and sensitive and overwhelming point, the implication of war for Ukrainian women at home and abroad. And my name is Natalia Yehorovets. I'm actually one of those women who got evacuated and got shelter in Poland since the beginning of the war. So the subject is attached to myself and very personal to me as well. And I'm happy, it's an honor for me to be here and moderate this panel. And I'm very glad and to welcome all these beautiful speakers, ladies who are experts how to help each other, because they are all ladies. So let's pay attention to this important point. The war affected lives of all Ukrainians, all people in general, but especially Ukrainians and especially women, because they are less protected than any other human beings in certain points, and they need extra protection sometimes when they take care of kids and elderly members of their families. And millions of women had to leave their homes, had to relocate, had to run away from their lives, saving their kids. And millions of women left at home because they decided to stay with their beloved ones, because they just couldn't, because they have their homes and parents there. And thousands of women just took part in literally protecting our country and participating in military forces battles. So what the main question is, what actually which problems women are facing now because of the war, and how they can be helped. This is a very general question, but let's start from details. And I will kindly ask to start answering this question our special guest speaker, Graziella Piga, Regional Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Director from Project Hope. Please, Graziella, tell us what are you doing and how actually you find ways to help women now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Natalia. I don't know, you want me to start with the presentation or just to provide a brief introduction?
Start showing
yeah.
and...
Yeah, okay. I just don't see the okay, no, it's not there. Can you put the first slide, please? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm here today representing Project Hope, which is an American-based organization. And we have been working on the Ukrainian response since March 2022. And as you can see from this, sorry, it's not working this. Yeah, as you can see from the map here on the screen, our response covered 4 countries. We've been working on Ukraine, in Poland, in Romania, and in Moldova. And we have offices in all the cities that are represented here in the map. And we engage in several activities. We provide medical supplies. We work on reconstruction of medical facilities, ambulatory. We have WASH programs. We have a mental health and social protection program for women and men, and capacity building. We also have mobile medical units. We have 9 medical mobile units that reach the remote areas and provide medical support and psychosocial support to men and women in remote areas.
You have them in Ukraine?
Yes, in Ukraine, yeah. Whereas in the refugee countries, Romania, Moldova, and Poland, we provide mostly psychosocial support. We work with NGOs there. And we have, especially in Poland, a team of Ukrainian psychologists that provide psychosocial support to refugees. And we also work with an organization that provides support to disabled people.
Do you have enough psychologists participating in the program?
I have to say that we have a lot of psychologists here, but perhaps what we need is like more training on trauma. Whereas in Ukraine, we really had several challenges to recruit the psychologists that we needed because the majority had evacuated. So in Ukraine, we open safe spaces for women and girls. And the main problem was really to recruit qualified psychologists because they had gone, unfortunately.
What are those safe spaces are?
So safe spaces are like, they are like some spaces where just women and girls can go, where they can have a psychosocial support. We have social workers. We have some psychotherapy. We have some spaces where women can go really and feel safe and can meet other women. And also there is like a specific type of support for victims of gender-based violence. So we trained all our, medical specialists, psychologists, and social workers on how to treat cases of sexual gender-based violence in conflict.
And what is the statistic? How many women actually come to those centers to get help?
This actually is another challenge. I don't know if you're aware, in Ukraine at the moment, there are several organizations that are trying to open safe spaces. But so far, the number of women that actually come specifically with issues of gender-based violence is not very high. Whereas women in general that come to, ask support, and this is something that, I wanted to discuss also later, it's still limited. There is this idea, and this I talked, when I was preparing this presentation, I talked a lot to our psychologists in Ukraine. They are all Ukrainian people, yeah? And they were telling me that one of the biggest challenges is that women themselves, who are actually suffering a lot, they feel somehow they do not have the right to suffer, or to ask for help. But they have to endure this sufferance because, people are combating, men and women, are at the front combating. So their sufferance, it seems to be like very tiny compared to the big sufferance of the country. So it's still a challenge, to have women come in, but, the number actually is increasing. In the month of November, we had over 2,100 people that actually asked for psychosocial support in Ukraine alone, yeah.
Great, so go on, please.
Okay. Maybe I've already talked about some... So, you ask us to talk about, what are the key implications of the war for women in Ukraine. And I've been thinking a lot about, my previous research. I did a lot of research on Ukraine before this big invasion. And then thinking about all the reports that we get from our, implementing partners. And these three are like the 3 key areas that, I would like to bring to this table for discussion. And one is really setback on gender equality gains, increase exposure to gender-based violence, and reduce attention to intimate partner violence and domestic violence. And then mental health needs versus primary needs. And I don't know if you want me, for example, I thought about, setbacks on gender equality gains because, I've done a lot of research about Ukraine, and we know that in the last decades, Ukraine had made huge advances in terms of gender equality. Laws and policies have been adopted. There is a gender equality commissioner that is extremely active, Mrs. Levchenko. And in the middle of the conflict after 2014, Ukraine has adopted a national action plan on the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. And this is a very important resolution because it provides actually the framework, for women's participation in conflict resolution, in relief and recovery, and also in negotiation. But then also this resolution talks about protection, prevention, and relief and recovery. And Ukraine has adopted this framework, and there have been a lot of gains. However, if we see, I'm already going forward, but if we see, for example, what happened with this war, there have been a lot of setbacks. Women have lost their jobs, have lost their independence, they have been on the move, and they've been obliged to take lower paid jobs for which, they were overqualified. We see, within Ukraine, we have women that, especially talking to my colleagues there, women over 45 find it extremely difficult to find qualified jobs, jobs for which they are qualified. In the refugee countries, we see women who have a high degree working as waitresses, working as cleaners because of the lack of recognition of their qualifications, but also because of the language barrier, if they are in Poland or in other countries. So this is one of the things that, I was first identifying, and I don't know if you want me to go further.
Please.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the three areas, but something that actually I would like to also to mention, these are three areas that I've identified, but I also would like to remind everyone about the intersection of vulnerabilities. We know that we always talk about women as a monolithic group, but women are different. Within this unified experience as a woman, there are many differences. So we have to think about age, status, health, disability, and location. So we know that women, depending on all these, specific vulnerabilities, they may be more or less affected by the conflict. And it's moving very slowly. Yeah, oh, sorry. Before I was talking about the setbacks on gender equality, and it seems a bit like difficult to talk about this, but we've been talking about this. Women have been in the formal economy, but also the role as a caregiver has enhanced, which, it was inevitable, but at the same time, this has meant that many women, and I've been talking to them in high-paid job, high-qualified job in government positions in Kiev, they actually decided to leave their jobs to save their kids. They had to make this choice, their career or the safety of their children, and they have decided for the safety of their children. And this is a picture actually of a woman. This was a distribution day by Project Hope. We distributed the last week of November 20,000 kits. And this woman, her name is Natalia. She's 29 years old. She left Donetsk Oblast. She's with her little daughter. She had to leave her job, her promising career, because she wanted her daughter to be safe. And, this is the story of many women in Ukraine. And this is just an exemplification,
Are those women getting any help with getting proper jobs abroad?
No, this is what I was saying, and I think my colleagues can talk a lot about this. I know myself, a woman who is a midwife, and she's working as a cleaner. The language barrier is a big problem. For younger generation, it's easier because they know English, so they can communicate. They maybe can do some work remotely. I know also people that work for international organizations. They know English, and they carry on with their work abroad remotely. But for those that were doing jobs like midwife, or other type of jobs where, you need your qualification to be recognized in the host country, and you need to know the language. Those women, we help them, but all the empowerment work that we are doing, for me, somehow is infantilizing them. We are, proposing always art, craft, but some of these women have a master's, they're highly qualified, and we want them to do art craft. We are always proposing the same type of activities. So I think a bit much more can be done.
Yeah, actually, Ukraine is a country with a super high level of people with university degrees, and like lots of people have more than one degree, so it's actually a real problem. You mentioned women who are in military forces as well, like they have also impact of war faced them as well, and how you help them.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring this as a future challenge because we know very well that this specific war was characterized by the very important participation of women soldiers in combat. We have seen since the very beginning of the conflict pictures of women on internet as heroines and a lot of young women. There was also this beautification of soldiers that we have seen, a lot of like beauties with actually a lot of inappropriate comments on I think on the net. I remember the Ministry of Defense talking about over 50,000 women being in combat, and perhaps the number is even growing. A lot of them are mothers, they are actually, because we keep saying, men are going to fight and they are leaving their wives, but actually a lot of mothers are going to fight and they have little kids. For me, one of the most important implications on this women's participation in war, actually there are several. One is their actually safety when they are in the army. Before the war, we were talking a lot about sexual harassment, and we should not forget about this because it wasn't a big issue until January 2022. There was a big research conducted by this association called the Invisible Battalion, and we should not forget about it. So we have to think about the safety of these women in the army. We have to think when they come back, about gender-sensitive demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration. These are very important programs that normally have been, let's say, structured for men. And in fact, women, that were in combat in 2004, from 2014 were completely left out from these programs. So it's really important that now that we have this massive presence of women soldiers, we really think about gender-sensitive DDR, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. And also, when we think yesterday there was, for example, a panel about well-being and family, we also think about what about the program that think about well-being and mental health of men who have been in war, because this will have or may have a huge implication in terms of domestic violence and violence against women. When all these men and women are coming back home, if they don't have the adequate support, this may be very problematic in terms of violence against women and domestic violence. So it's something we have to think about. Another thing, thinking about the experience of countries like Bosnia, is about the massive presence of small arms and weapons. These arms were distributed to men at the beginning of the conflict in February. There were like several videos talking about this. It was necessary. Everybody was going there to fight. But we have to think that all these weapons may be in the house walls when the war is finished. And this will be actually increased risk for feminicide or homicide.
Thank you. Thank you, Graziella. I'm going to ask to continue this very important topic to your colleague, Colleen Denny, who is the regional director for Europe, Spirit of America, and she is expert of, she knows everything about women in military forces. So I let her continue this topic. What are problems of women who are in military forces? How can we help them, actually?
Thank you, Natalia, and thank you. I'm so happy to be on this panel today with my colleagues up here. So like Natalia said, I work for an NGO, Spirit of America. We have been active in Ukraine since 2014, since the original invasion in Donetsk and Luhansk and Crimea. Our projects have really evolved over the years since when the war first started to the full-scale invasion of February 24th. A lot of our focus, all of our focus is working with the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv and with U.S. military members that are deployed to Ukraine and to the region and working alongside their counterparts. So members in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the Ukrainian military. As you all know, on February 24th, as Gabriella was saying, tens of thousands of Ukrainians joined the fight, and whether that was formally by joining the Territorial Defense Force, which was newly formed in January, or defending their families, defending their cities, stepping into roles that were previously filled by men that women now had to fill as the men went to join the fight. So there has been a huge gap and an exponential growth in women that have participated and joined the Ukrainian military. So just to give some quick numbers and comparisons to ground all of this, about 50,000 women, and it's expected to be 60,000 by beginning of next year, are in the Ukrainian military. About 10,000 of those are actively serving on the front lines. The other 40,000 are in administrative support roles or are training to head to the front lines. So that's about 22 to 25% of the Ukrainian military is female, which is an incredible number compared to the United States and in the service that I served in for the U.S. Our numbers are about 17% of the U.S. military is female. So Ukraine is almost 10 percentage points higher than the United States. Compared to other NATO countries, countries range from 0.3% of the female force all the way up to 20%. So Ukraine exceeds all NATO country members' percentage of females in their service. So what does this really mean to have a significant amount of females in the fighting force? It means several things. One is the diversity of thought and diversity of problem solving that women bring to a scenario. As we've all seen, the Ukrainian military has they've outplayed, they've outwitted, they've been ahead of the Russian military pretty much since the Battle of Kyiv was won. So women bringing difference of experience and also problems solving and solution ideas to the planning table and into the command and control is a significant effect that has been studied across time of women in militaries. The other point is women serving as a high percentage of medics. So those that are in the field providing the immediate casualty and TCCC response to wounded Ukrainian warriors. These numbers have increased. I think it's like almost 50% of field medics are females. So a huge number of women providing the immediate trauma and first aid, removing wounded soldiers from the battlefield, and then involved in the evacuations and further care of those wounded warriors. So as Gabriella was saying, that also means that this huge increase in surge in women serving in the military will bring significant challenges and differences when we look at the post-conflict landscape of Ukraine. When we look at veterans affairs and health care that's provided to veterans once they leave the service, women obviously will have different health needs and different challenges that they face when they return. And whether that's with reintegration, whether it's with physical trauma, whether it's with mental trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, this is something that the Ukrainian Ministry of Veterans Affairs has never had to significantly serve, and definitely does not have the capacity, especially when it comes to gender equity for the veterans after they leave the service.
How can that help be actually provided practically? How would you do that, for example?
Yeah, so we have a couple different ideas of how to do this. Alongside the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, the Ministry of Veterans Affairs has been going through reforms for the last several years, especially under Zelensky's administration. A couple different ministers, a couple different directors, trying to model the more Western standard instead of the Soviet legacy of traditional healthcare that's provided to Ukrainian service members after they leave active duty. The role of women and the services that women will need once they are veterans is quite challenging. This will require a lot of Western help and aid help, both from private sector as well as public sector.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. One example is women will suffer from a higher amount of, endometriosis, so the trauma and the extreme situations that they have to live through while in the field results in a higher number of women who will then suffer from endometriosis. So gynecological health will be a significant need for female veterans after they leave the service, and the health system within Ukraine will need to provide for these services. But going back to those who are actively serving right now, I also wanted to touch on, Gabriella said this also, but the gender equity that exists within the Ukrainian military. In 2018, the Ukrainian parliament adopted new rules for their military so that women could serve in all roles in the Ukrainian military. So they were previously limited to administrative and support roles. Starting in 2018, women could serve in combat positions and work directly alongside men. So this has also been a huge gain as we look to Ukraine's future and potential NATO membership. This is a really significant step forward that was achieved in 2018, and of course we're seeing play out in the battlefield today. Finally, I wanted to just also mention that the role of women in the Ukrainian military is here to stay. While many tens of thousands of Ukrainian men and women joined the fight on February 24th, this is a lasting impact on Ukrainian society that my colleagues up here will probably speak to as well. But so what this looks like post-conflict of women remaining in the military, of women remaining in leadership positions, of what this means to the traditional domestic household and the roles that the traditional gender roles that some households followed and for in various parts throughout Ukraine. This will also be something that we in the public and private sector will be focusing on and will need to focus on in the post-conflict space so that this Rosie the Riveter moment, as we'd call it in the United States, that the lessons are learned and properly applied after the success of Ukrainian victory.
Have you noticed, or do you have any data about does it influence effectivity of military forces if more women are participating there?
Yes, I have some anecdotal evidence, and I apologize, I don't have a presentation. The units and the teams that we work with, of course, their names can't be shared and their faces can't be shared with the various units. So I'll just share a few examples. There are several stories of women who joined from 2014, before or after, and are leading companies and battalions, and the amount of success that they've had, particularly in the dynamic space of the battlefield, has been quite astounding. There are also, for the first time ever, a completely female special operations forces unit. So the United States didn't do this until 2010, 2011, 2012. So Ukraine, to already have a fully female special operations force unit, is exemplary. These units work in different ways, able to communicate with the local populations and with members of the populations in different ways, are able to do reconnaissance in different ways than men are able to, and actually exploit the misogyny that many Russian military members would, when they see a Ukrainian woman, actually exploit that to their advantage. The women to do reconnaissance and various other battlefield and civil military interactions that are to their advantage.
That's interesting, indeed. Yeah, and it's also interesting that actually every Ukrainian woman, no matter if she's in military forces or not, can actually be called a warrior. And now our next speaker can have what to say and show even about it. Let me introduce you CEO and co-founder of organization which is called White Ribbon, Iryna Kopanytsia.
Hello, thank you very much. Our organization and movement, it's actually was founded in Canada many years ago, and it was founded by men. So men protecting women rights. Before the war, it used to be the main focus on domestic violence. So we've been developing the law and criminalization of domestic violence in Ukraine in 2017. Then developing and launched application for domestic violence victims. But of course, from the start of the war, I guess as everyone here and as everyone in my country, we do everything in all directions. Yeah, we do everything we can help. So we focus on war crimes because like rapes during the war, it's called war crimes already. With war crimes victims, working with psychological rehabilitation, and actually adding information to my colleague, I would say that how many organizations wouldn't work now in Ukraine, it's never enough. Due to following our data of our teams of psychologists, by the end of this year, we'll have among Ukrainians 14 million people with post-traumatic syndrome. So can you imagine how many psychologists, how many NGOs, teams, volunteers we need? And so now we try to launch and develop some a project kind of like people psychology. So we try to give anyone from social workers to anyone who want some at least primary skills of detecting and working with post-traumatic syndrome. So like we don't want to teach someone or study to become a real psychologist. It's not possible. But at least we want to give everyone skills to be like everyone in Ukraine have to become a bit psychologist to survive.
How many people already started to learn that? Because Graziella mentioned a very important problem that people in Ukraine don't come and ask for that help. Women abroad here as well. Like there are organizations ready to provide that help, but people, we have that's our mentality for some reason. We're gonna tolerate stuff. This is like very much Ukrainian woman, unfortunately.
That's why we'll never know real statistic of war crimes, of rapes, because most of them not coming. Yeah, exactly. Most of them feel shy, wanna forget it, but they're not coming. That's why we decided that we need to teach of at least primary skills of psychologists. So like your friend, your neighbor can be a bit psychologist for you, or you for yourself.
Whom are you teaching?
I mean, for now, our team is teaching some just civilians who wanted to obtain the skills, and some social workers. For now, we've got ready like 65 specialists, and so each of them following each own group. So we'll see how it works. It should be like wave, and then we can share this program with other organizations, and probably because like end of the year is very close and we have work hard to be able to work with all post-traumatic syndromes victims. Yeah.
Teachers are going to be involved in that program to be taught how to do that.
Everyone who want. Yeah, now we work very close with Ya Mariupol Center. So it's people replaced from Mariupol. So if first months, it was impossible for them to obtain any skills, yeah, because they were themselves not in that shape, not in proper shape. But after few months of therapy, they are more or less ready now to start new life, I don't know, to go ahead. And also the other thing which is very important, I think now for Ukraine as a country to relaunch economy, that we need to think about programs for women obtaining new skills in finance, in business, because most part of population now should follow not always typical for them roles as before. Yeah, we had quite a huge percentage women in business, in private business, big business, being CEO, directors.
Let's show your presentation maybe.
Yeah. In the,
so you can comment those slides about this topic.
Okay, let's show. You have it? Okay. So this statistic is actually very, very fresh. It's like 2 days, and the guys who prepared is a team, a very cool IT team, who's developing now platforms that joining all our different state authorities. So they've been developing some services for the application and for some other ministries. So here we can see like how many women in Ukraine working like FOP. It's like small business, let's call it, and entrepreneurs. So like half of women in Ukraine are already in business, and this is quite huge numbers. It's like nearly 1 million, and more than half of women now abroad, so that like a refugee. So that means like if someone used to be in business doing something, so probably moving to other country, they will try to find out something. The same like in Poland. I guess most of Polish refugees, for now, for that moment, some of them don't need help, but they already can give even places for work. Yeah, am I right?
Yeah. In
Yeah.
Poland, I'm sure one of our next speakers Marta will have what to add to this. We'll come to it later.
Oh, this was next. It's uncontrolled process, no? Or okay, so here you can make a picture who interested, or we can make a follow-up of this presentation with this statistic. So we can see the spheres where women is mostly involved. So this is the main sector. It's retail trade. So this is in retail. Then on the second place there is provision and of other individual services. This is programming as well. This is warehouse and activities, field of transport. So it's kind of the same spheres where men involved. Here a statistic, there was some information of how many, that's it. How many companies were registered from the beginning of the war.
So after the war started,
Yes.
more people were becoming entrepreneurs and registered
Not more,
company.
but still were registering companies and becoming entrepreneurs. So and this is statistic. It's not about NGOs. It's about small or middle businesses.
Is it much lower than regular years?
It is lower, but it is still strange as for the wartime that people already started a new life. So yeah, everyone has stress, everyone has some post-traumatic or something, yeah, but they still go ahead.
That's great.
And also we can see, I just, frankly speaking, don't know how to use this. So it's just chaotic. It makes some chaotic. I wanna show a statistic with education. You mentioned that a lot of, and I have numbers. Can I give it maybe to you? I have just maybe five pictures, but it moves quite chaotic.
Yes.
Maybe the battery problem.
It's kind of like a lot of women have 2 or 3 higher education, so we can predict that definitely these kind of refugees, they will never stay doing nothing wherever they are. So for me personally, it's very shame to lose these people. I realize that as long as we go ahead with the war, so probably some people won't come back. So I would like, of course, our businesswoman, businessman stay in my country or come back to my country to relaunch economy already. Yes, it's dangerous, I understand this, but personally, like I'm living in Kyiv. And like this is my decision to stay in Ukraine, to stay in Kyiv. And so here we can see that the numbers and statistic of owners, like women used to be a single owner of business, like 77% of women prefer to be a single owner of business. Then, of course, mostly they have like 74%. It's like very small businesses, 22% like middle business, and 4% it's huge and like big business.
What should be made to inspire those women to come back to their business and provide their business in Ukraine? What can be done to get them back? How do you think?
As I noticed, mostly we don't need to inspire them. They already inspired, yeah, and they are coming back. I guess you know the statistics that quite a lot of refugees are coming back to Ukraine, and it's not about rebuilding economy there or some patriotic thinking about economy, but they just feel at home. They want to come back home.
So have you noticed that still bigger amount of those entrepreneurs would rather go back to Ukraine and keep doing their business, or they would start business in Europe whenever they can?
Unfortunately for now, most start business in Europe. I mean, not unfortunately for Europe, but unfortunately for Ukraine, they start business in Europe. Yeah, in Ukraine, still not the best conditions. So that's why some numbers of this statistic for me was really surprising about like the numbers, how many companies were opened from the beginning of the war. And even if we see the areas where it was open, it's quite everywhere. It's in Kharkov region, it's Kherson region. It's still a lot of companies.
Kharkiv is an incredible place. It's been bombed like literally every day. There is not even single neighborhood alive, but all businesses are working. Like wherever after bombing, city facilities just clean up and people just go back to their works. Cafes are working, shops are working. People just leave no matter what. They just protesting the war this way. This is really incredible to see that. And also, I think I would like to ask your opinion, especially those who represent other countries, not Ukraine. How do you think this exchange might influence European countries as well? Because like Ukrainians starting businesses in other countries, can't it be just like very good for both cultures, experience in exchange, cultural exchange, economical exchange or something? So it's not like we are losing those people, but we kind of increasing the connection.
Can I have some comment for that? For example, some of our smart IT guys, they are thinking about these kind of things and developing some solutions. For example, one team is now building some platform to make kind of like these programs, twinning cities, yeah? But it's more about cultural cooperation, but they want to build something like economical cooperation. So they want to help locals, refugees, people who come back, people who decide to stay, to build business in between countries and in between cities. So this is supposed to be kind of platforms that use as a source information from different state authorities, so you can check companies, is it reliable or not, and you can choose some suppliers, some partners there. So I guess this kind of solution might arise in our future. So to give possibility people independent on their decision to stay in Europe, to come back Ukraine, or to stay in Ukraine, to cooperate and to build business to make closer our business environment of our countries.
Yeah, and especially in Poland, there are lots of such cases. Women owners of business, for example, in beauty industry, it's very common field. They just relocated and reopened same business here, and they especially hiring Ukrainians to work there. This is very supportive for Ukrainians, and also the quality of services provided by Ukrainians in that field are a little bit different from services you can meet in Europe. So like customers are right here, and it kind of brings it to a better level actually, which is good, I believe, for all of us. Like we are helping ourselves and integrating with people from other countries as well.
That's what I was searching for you, for everyone. Women with higher education, like 67% of Ukrainian women with higher education, and 17% has got 2 or more higher education. So that means that our refugees is quite a good quality refugees for the European and American countries. And
yeah, that's true. I mean, we're trying to be to do our best at least. And may we continue, or I don't want to cut you, but
no, I mean, I wanted to mention, not to repeat the same things that everyone knows or that everyone were told. So I just wanted to mention about this psychological thing, that it's still needed, and it's very important, and we should develop some programs to work with that, to avoid in future domestic violence after the war, that you mentioned, that can be a huge problem, and that we should work with all categories now. Refugees, they also have this post-traumatic syndrome wherever people are in Ukraine, outside Ukraine. Everyone has relatives, and we never knows where this post-traumatic syndrome can feel more, staying outside or staying inside. Because personally, I feel more safe staying in Ukraine, because at least I know I see my friends, my relatives, I know that they are okay. Then when I'm staying out and I'm starting to search updates of news and starting to call and write to relatives and to friends. And let's think about some business programs and business educations, business skills on financing, or these kind of programs. I guess you will tell about this more. Yeah. So we also started some kind of like business incubators, but it's like for small groups of people from Mariupol to give them some skills and to start to launch some personal business.
So they learn how to do business. People with zero knowledge about it, they can learn and...
yes, at least something. It's primary to have an idea what is it, to start some from idea to make a small business, even like Instagram shop, I don't know, but it's still a small business can be. And when they are inside community of people with the same problems, with the same background, with the same story of the war, it's easier for them, because they still shy to enter some completely different society of people from business, like famous, high skilled, by staying in their society, like of the same, like Mariupol replaced people. Yeah, they with pleasure. They already feel like they are ready for that.
That's a great initiative, and actually it might be very helpful to one special category of women who need even more protection than others. Those are mothers of little kids, and for them, problem how to protect themselves, how to maintain themselves and their kids, it's super important, because while they are abroad or just relocated within Ukraine, they are having hard times by earning money for living. And when they have little kids, it's kind of impossible even for him to leave those kids and go to work. And especially when they live abroad, they have no one here, they have no grannies to leave kids with and go to work. So it's a big problem. And luckily we have today an expert in that field, Maryna Marchenko, who's the head of NGO Pregnancy and Maternity Support Club LADA. And I would like to ask Maryna, what are main problems mothers are facing now during war in Ukraine and abroad, and what is done already to help them, and how and where they can go and get that help?
Okay. I'm very thankful for all of you that you mentioned, that you told before, and I will not repeat these tasks, but I try to add something from my expertise. Our organization is working for more than 4 years to create conditions and opportunities for postpartum recovery, improving mental health, and to return women on the labor market after maternity leave. So our expertise is maternity, and our team consists of mothers. We're based in Kiev, and we work in central and the west regions of Ukraine. So it is quite challenges for us because firstly we work for mothers in law, and then we close our laptops and start to be these mothers in war. The specific of our organization is that we explore maternity like a special gender aspect and problem, and we conducted surveys and made interviews to know actual needs and pains of Ukrainian mothers, to provide actual projects for them. 21st of February, the day really divided Ukrainian lives into before and after. And for mothers, the day became a day when wrong and right decisions no longer exist, because it was all about choices, and the choices was about surviving and saving the children. This war influenced all mothers that who decided to go on a trip with no destination in different countries with different language and cultures, as well as for them who decided to stay in Ukraine, and that mothers needed to adopt themselves and their children for war conditions, to behavior during Iran sirens, curfew, right behavior during bombing, and new rules of life there. And both of these categories, regardless whether they live now, they got traumatized. And we made a survey, and we just approved our hypothesis that we had before, that the main challenges, consequences now, except questions of safety, is about mental health and economic capacity. So we know that mothers now are faced with anxiety and PTSD, with lots of syndromes, with lots of different names of it, and traumas, weaknesses trauma, and participant trauma, and as well as collective trauma. And when we talk about economic capacity of these women, I will tell you now facts and numbers, but I really want you to understand that behind all these facts and numbers, there are real women, real lives, and real stories that we heard. 7 out of 10 women now with children do not have a job. They told this happens because they couldn't return to the labor market after maternity leave. So we had these problems even before. Our organization working 4 years, and we worked with these mental problems, mothers' mental problems, like postpartum depression, burnouts, anxiety, even before war. Now war enhanced all of this and brought new problems. So they couldn't return to the labor market after maternity leave, and others mentioned that they now cannot to find job because of job losses, worsened conditions, and pay cuts, as well as mothers abroad, because of different language, different legislation, different culture, they need to lower their position. We saw the presentation that the majority mothers, women now are business consultants, but I'm not sure, but I believe that these consultants, it's like a consultants who lives abroad but continue to consult maybe Ukrainian labor market, maybe. Yeah, it's my hypothesis after your presentation. And if we return to this, our survey, 84% of respondents do not have their own funds. That means that they are dependent on partners' income and social subsidies. That can result in the potential for abusive relationships, and that's the problem. And almost a half of the respondents, they mentioned about that their humanitarian needs are not satisfied. And that's the basic needs. We are talking about food. So and on the other hand, we understand that now women take more responsibility for the financial responsibility for the families, and potentially they will take a huge part of work for the rebuilding and development country after victory. Yes, lots of aspects are here. So we need to improve these women with children. We need to understand that specific moments that they need to be healthy, to have capacity to talk about war with their children, to live with or without partners, or partners who are now on the war, as well as when they return to their children. This is a very big challenge, yeah. And we need to improve and to work and comprehensively. We need to work with women as well as with labor market, as well as with government. We need to create special mental programs and create special areas for women to support each other and to have opportunity to work even with the children, to have somebody simply to be with your child when kindergartens are closed, or you have very small child and you need to earn money.
How it can be solved if you really don't have a relative to do that?
Yes, but yes, and we need to create these conditions. How we see that? We had experience to work in these areas before the war. Our most popular projects are hotline, free all Ukrainian hotline for parents after birth to have information about mental health, postpartum recovery, breastfeeding as well. We created a special platform who helped women to return to the labor market after maternity leave, and we organized special events for mothers with children, even before war, with children, which they can have options to live somewhere with someone. So it is about. It can be about some special hubs like co-working for moms with babysitter to create this opportunity to work with electricity because of blackouts and energy cuts. And we need to work in the informational front as well to communicate about maternity as a values of gender equality, democracy, freedom. As well as we need to work in the cities, in the medical centers to give these services, psychotherapy, breastfeeding consultations, consultations about recovery in war conditions in real cities, in real medical centers. It's interesting that now we have a war, and our women, they continue to take their children and to go to the pediatrist every month. But minority of them go to their doctors. their women doctors. It's
Yeah, that's
real life
again
of
we
Ukrainian mothers. Yeah.
point that problem. And also, I would like to add something important, I believe, which I noticed a bit contradictory between what Iryna was talking and what Maryna is talking. Like, we have a big amount of women, business women, but we have huge amount of women who are in humanitarian crisis. And let me clarify why is it happening. Because Iryna was talking mainly, I guess, about women from big cities. The life in big cities and life in towns and villages are very different. And that's why this attention is really needed to be provided in little towns and villages. Because in big cities, the education level of psychology, of everything is already quite good. And people still need, but we are getting there. But in villages, there is still that cliche in our mentality that you go to psychologist, that means you are not normal, which is like a very old stereotype, and it's still there in people's head. So it's good if we can provide something in little places where most of population live.
Yes, and for example, when we provided our hotlines, it was a big challenge for us because we had calls from big cities, from the people who are now ready to get this support. And it was quite challenges for us to explain for others that if you need help, it is okay. It is better for you and for your child when you can take this help. And one I wanted to add as I can about women abroad and their how to return them here to Ukraine. We had conversation with mothers, and we understand the main factors what can influence. We need to create safety measures, high quality work in educational center, proposals on the labor market, and work with mentality health. And we believe then we need to do it now, not after victory, to return these women, because abroad are 5 million refugees. 90% of them are women with children. But if we start to work now, today, and every day from today to improve these conditions for women who are now in Ukraine, I believe that other women, it can help them to dare to return, because they will see that here is the life, here are opportunities, and they can deal with this.
Thank you, Maryna. Thank you. And you,
I can make just one comment that probably my message sounded a bit wrong, because I try to be always optimistic and positive. So maybe it sounded too positive, but I just wanted to mention. No. I mean that the situation is not so positive as it probably sounded. That everyone is in business, everything is so growing economy in Ukraine. No. My main idea is that we should start thinking about it and prepare programs and for mothers and for other women and for obtaining new skills in business, financing, and whatever. Because when quite a big part of men are fighting, so that means that their women at least should be in business or should earn money.
I think the point which can be extracted is the main feature of Ukrainian women. They are very active, even though they are in hard situation, but they are actually not lazy, like sitting and would wait for help. We are ready to do something to help ourselves. What they need, what we need, just some help to provide us how we can do that. So these initiatives, educating business, how to start business, they're actually very good, I believe. And also very important is a thing which is still not so common in Ukraine as financial education. Because also naturally most of people are not rich, let's say so. And when you're just about to survive, you don't really think about some future investments or things, because you actually don't believe it's your reality. But maybe our next speaker has another point and she will add something helpful to that. So Marta Kobińska, the Chief Financial Officer, and she's an expert of financial education and how is it actually even can be provided for Ukrainian women now in this current situation, and how, if so?
Welcome, everybody. I'm very proud to be here, and I was listening to my press speakers, and this what I can say is I'm very proud of women all over the world that they try to create a new world. And money, what I am going to talk about, is very, I would say, subject of a kind of taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody says it's an important in our everyday life, but we still can't talk about it. And I'm working in finance for more than 20 years, but from a few years back, I decided to raise a project of financial education, especially dedicated to women. And I'm creating programs in a new raised foundation, also dedicated to women, because I see in my everyday life, and this what I observe from February this year, that money became a huge problem, not only for women who came to Poland, especially because Poland is a first choice country, I would say, because of the very similar culture. We are neighbors, and we do everything to help. But there are also economical problems for Ukraine, for Poland, and also for all over the world, because everybody wants help. And people are thinking what we can do. And I was also thinking what personally I can do is to set up a program, especially for increasing the knowledge about finance, and not only finance as a hard tools, but also coming from emotions, coming from financial schemes we have and what we think about money. Because Ukrainian refugees, women who came to Poland, left a lot of their lives in their homes, and they came here very often without money, without the financial security. They don't feel safe. Not only because of the war, but also because of the financials. And that may raise a lot of problems, because to protect their families, their kids, they are very in danger for to be a victim, a sexual victim, to be a financial victim, physical victim. And I was thinking how we can avoid that, if that is really possible, but at least to decrease that problem. And this, what I think we should be concentrated on, is to create a program, how to raise a business, what I've heard from my colleagues, because there are a lot of statistics showed that women are very active in business. They want to be active. They want to provide value added to the society they live in. And that would be a big help from also governmental, from other foundation, just to create a kind of cooperation, how to activate those women being abroad, not only in Poland, but I can say only in the name of the country I live in, because I'm observing this every day. And those programs should show women who want to be active, who want to provide the support for their relatives to create a business, to how to take care also about all the emotions they have inside, because that is also that also have an impact on financial. If you are in a good condition, you can put a lot of effort to everything what you do. So that would be a combination of the psychological aspects and also financials and also productivity in business. And I am pretty sure that if we give this opportunity to Ukrainian women, they will, even if they want to come back to Ukraine after the war end, or maybe they would like to stay in Poland or other country, that would be a huge value added for the economical, for the European economical, because that would be an exchange of the knowledge, exchange of the goods, exchange of the services, and that only can make a lot of good things. So I think that all those programs, based on the financial education, because this is what also I observe that that can put a woman in a different position. They feel stronger, they feel independent, and they want to feel independent. Taking money from the government for the social welfare programs are in some ways humiliating. So we feel dependent, and we don't want to feel dependent. We want to earn money, we want to be free, and we want to create a better future also for our children.
Yes, that's the important point. Thank you, Marta. And there is an organization here in Poland which already is doing those programs, helping raising funds and grants for Ukrainian women, for organizations who help Ukrainian women to start business, to learn language, etc. And we have a representative of this organization, educational project director of Kulchik Foundation. She is with us on Skype, Anna Samsel. Hello, Anna. Nice. Thanks for being with us online. So tell us more, please, about your organization and what help practically is being provided.
Thank you for invitation. Hello to everybody. Sorry I can't be there, but sometimes it's happened. I'm actually I was listening what my pre-speakers were talking, and it's so many things which we have in common, and I think it's like general knowledge, some of them, but some of them it's very important to know. As an organization, we support women all over the world, but when the Ukrainian war started, we focused on the help to Ukrainian women and children. Actually, the movie you showed at the beginning brought me some memories, when in February and March, we, as an impulse, actually, we wanted to help. And our first help was to go to a refugee center in Hrubieszów and be a volunteer there and, deliver some product there and, support them for some time. But we noticed that needs are changing also, and we were thinking about some more effective way to help women, not more effective, but the most effective we can deliver, So for us, it was very important to make Ukrainian women to feel safe and welcome here. That's why we create the program we called Hi Girls, which is Привіт, дівчата. And that's in this way we wanted to help women by actually listening to what they need and create some help. So we create the council where we have Polish and Ukrainian women. Mostly they are artists, scientists, business women, and they were talking about Ukraine, about women needs. And that's how we decide to raise the fund, support fund for women and girls from Ukraine. We call it High Girls, of course. And we want, with this fund, we wanted to help find themselves in Poland better. So with this fund, we managed to raise about 2 million zloty. 1 million was donated by Dominika Kurczyk, our president, and the other from individuals and companies. So the council, the Ukrainian women and Polish women, decided to give this money as a grant. And as one of my pre-speakers said, the big city has quite a big offer for Ukrainian women. But in the small centers, there is not big choice, So we decided to support local organizations. We believe in their wisdom, in their experience. We know that we believe they know better how to support women in their small cities. So that's how we decided to spend this money for the grants. We received about 450 applications. So, and in the first edition, and the second 350. So this project, this amount just shows how big is the need for help, but it shows also the diversity of the needs. Because what I can say from my observation and also from some information I got from Ukrainian women, there is no one universal type of women we have here. So their skills, their resilience, their experience, it's so different. So the help should be also diversified. Yes. So that's why we're thinking about also about the future of these women, to use their skills, to let them use their skills, to make it possible. So we not only support women with this grants, for these organizations, but also we provide some help, some direct help in our support center. There are workshops, there are some meetings, and then we also hire the Ukrainian specialists where they can use their actual skills, like psychologists, musicians, artists, teachers, cook. So they can use their skills, but also help other women, other Ukrainian women. As you said before, most of these women are overqualified and they can't really find the job which meets their needs, which meets their qualified skills. So that's what they want, they need, is basic help with language, basic help with some legal advice. That's what we provide as well.
So you provide also educational programs for Ukrainian women to learn how they should do business here abroad, yeah? How it should be done properly.
How to set up the business, how how it looks actually to looking for the job in Poland, how to prepare resume. So it's like a basic thing, but also we try to connect women, Ukrainian women, with the Polish women as well. This is the thing which help them as well. And very important thing for us is also, because most of these women are with children here. So for us, very important thing is to support their children, because this way they could concentrate more on other things. So as you said before, PTSD is a big issue here. So a psychological help for these women, for children, and also for teachers, because we cooperate with Ukrainian schools, is very, very important.
How much do they need to know Polish language to find proper jobs here? And how many women actually apply to those Polish language courses and study it actually?
Oh, we already had 4 editions of Polish language courses. That's what we provide here in Warsaw. But as I told, as a grant, we support also the programs like this in some cities. But in one course could participate like 50 women. But actually, we have like 4 or 5 times more applications.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for your very important presentations and information to think about. And unfortunately, we almost ran out of time. Maybe 1, 2 up to our topic question or comment or something additional which might help to understand the problem better and improve it. You are welcome if you have something to say. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I just have 3 points that I would like, just as a conclusion. I mean, at least from my point of view, because I think everybody here talked from different perspective. So really to re-emphasize, this intersection of vulnerabilities, because we have talked about women who are powerful, who have a lot of resilience. Women actually need more help. I would like really to stress the needs of those women who are in collective centers, who are the most vulnerable, those that have less skills, less financial resources, and they need the most need. And linking this into the increased exposure to gender-based violence for these women. We have talked a lot, like from March, about this exposure to the risk of human trafficking, sexual abuse, and somehow we have kind of forgotten this, feeling that the issue has been addressed, but actually it hasn't been addressed. There are like more and more stories about women who are victims of gender-based violence, about women who actually are ready now, after so many months of like living in collective centers, they are ready to take risk, to go abroad, to take like very strange offers from people, because they want to make a change in their life. So I think we have to be alert. And then also the last point that I wanted to highlight, we've talked a lot about resilience, but also I think we have to really think about denial of women's needs. Women are being very active in trying to do something for their families, for their kids, but actually they are denying what their own needs are, like mental needs, physical needs. The continuous story that I heard from women is like, oh, at the end I'm lucky because I'm alive, my house hasn't been destroyed. So there is this constant denial of their own needs. And this, I think, is really important to address and to solve, because if those needs are not addressed, will stay inside and will not allow a proper resilience for women.
I agree very much, because we really underestimate women's needs, and we need to understand that women manage now everything well, not because it is easy, because they do not have a choice, but some time will come and consequences they will know about themselves.
Yeah, that's true. We are all survivors now.
And about human trafficking, actually we had one case in the first few months of the war. Like, it's not our focus of our organization, but we faced a situation when there were criminals in between three countries, between Portugal, Poland, and Ukraine. They used some church buses, and it was about kidnapping the whole families. So it took us 2 months, together with our authorities, together with our military intelligence, and in between, so we opened case in police in Europol, and yeah, they were caught, these criminals, after 2 months. But it is just a small episode of our NGO that is not focused on that, but that just.
They are still very active outside of collective centers.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are much more problems to raise. But thank you for now. And Iryna brought a nice, positive, inspiring video. Let's watch it.
Yeah, just showing the background of women, but not only Ukrainian. I guess we're talking about also Polish women, because we are very neighboring and on the same territories, the same spirit.
Yeah, I want to add, the way Polish women supported Ukrainian women ruined all stereotypes about female friendship. I mean, that was overwhelming, that support. Thank you.
No, it's not about women's spirit. It's still something nice, but can we please? It was on Dropbox and it on YouTube, link on email.
Okay, sorry, it was a little video clip. Yeah, next time.
No?
They
Can I
don't get
mention
it. It
something?
was sent
Sorry.
too
Very
late.
shame.
Sorry, can I say something at the end?
Yes, sure. We can share all links and in social media. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.